In 1994, a friend of mine introduced me to the world of first-person shooters by showing me the game Doom playing on his 486DX computer, his PC that he had. And I was drooling over that. Drooling over the computer, drooling over the game, wishing that I had a computer like that. Now, fast forward a few years later, while I was in college, I did have a computer like that was able to play Doom, which is super cool. But not only that, I was also in 1997 introduced by another friend to Winamp and MP3s and that digital format of music playing. I proceeded to take the next, I don't know how many years, but it took a while before I had enough storage on my hard drive in order to actually put all of my CD collection, my hundreds of CDs that I had acquired while growing up of music into MP3s. Go back a few years prior, in 1992, and Atari released their swan song of a computer, of the Atari Falcon 030. This is the last computer that Atari released into production and into commercial failure, effectively. There weren't a whole lot made, there weren't a whole lot sold, but the cool thing about this computer is even with its humble, at the time, I would consider the 68030, that CPU that it had, is relatively humble, clocked at 16 megahertz. It was able to play, or is able to play, Doom in its stock configuration. You don't have to have an accelerator. You don't have to do anything special to the computer. You can play Doom with the Falcon 030 as it stands today. Not only that, you can also decode real-time MP3s and play them, and actually have MP3 playback on this computer as well. Had I known, had I been able to access software, obviously that software was worked on for periods of time after the computer was gone, but had this been developed more fully, maybe we could have had these kinds of capabilities on an Atari computer at that point in time. Wishful thinking. But today, we're going to walk through the Falcon 030 here. I'm going to kind of give you a walk around as to what it is, some of the history behind it, less so the history and more of the internals, a little bit of how it works, and then just showing you how it functions software-wise today. All right? If you've watched more than a couple of my previous videos, you'll know that I'm an Atarian, with my first computer experiences being an Atari 8-bit computer, or Atari 8-bit computers with my friends, and a little bit later, my own computer of an Atari 520 ST. Now, I grew up with those during the time, and I grew up in the United States. My family and those around my family switched over to PCs in the late 80s, early 90s, and so we kind of left the Atari and any other computer scene behind at that point in time. And so I was completely unaware of the Atari computers after the Mega ST. I was aware that there was kind of a desktop Atari ST computer, like a, kind of an office desktop style computer, but beyond that, really nothing else. Right, I didn't know about what an STE or a TT, Atari STE or Atari TT, or even the Atari Falcon were. No idea. Didn't even know they existed up until about 10 years ago. But I have since then learned about these other computers, really love playing around with them, and obviously this is kind of my holy grail computer, and I'm just delighted that I've been able to find one. And no, I didn't find it at the pricing that you see today. I was lucky I got into this a little bit earlier, and so this is not quite at the crazy pricing levels that you see today. Let's do a quick walk around on this Falcon here, and we'll just kind of take a look at the outside and then the inside. All right, as you can see, from a cosmetic standpoint, This looks a lot like the STFs or STEs. Slightly different color casing, obviously different color keyboard. I think that gives it some of its charm and actually distinguishes it versus the other Atari STs. And then you have the label here, the rainbow label of the Falcon 030. As simple as that, if you took that out of the equation and looked at it from the outside, you could easily confuse this for an Atari STE or STF even. Let's just rotate around it. On this side, you see the floppy disk drive. And this is an HD, a 1.44 megabyte floppy disk drive. So, and as you can see, the cutout is no longer the form-fitting Atari style, but you have a more of a square rectangular. So you can actually use standard floppy drives in this guy. On the back side, this is where things are a bit different. The far left-hand side, you have your digital signal processor, the DSP. You have a headphone and microphone jack on the outside. We're into the multimedia era at this point. You have a SCSI port. So you're actually able to access SCSI hard drives, SCSI zip drives, SCSI CD-ROMs. It's actually pretty cool. I actually have a SCSI CD-ROM that I hook into there. You have a monitor port. This is VGA compatible. That said, this will output 640 by 480, 256 colors just fine. It can actually output more colors, higher resolution if you overclock the video processor inside the video chip. But this, you just need to get a simple adapter to a VGA, a standard VGA cable. This is just a different form factor. RF modulator out. You have your printer port, LPT port. You have your COM port. You have a LAN port over here. I've never seen anything using that at all on this side. Your power connector as well, kettle powder connector. Reset and power switch as you would see normally. On this side, this looks just like an STE. You have your MIDI in and out and in rather. You have your cartridge port. And then you have the JAG controller ports over here. There's some software that uses it, not a lot. And there you go, that's the externals of this Atari Falcon. We'll dig on the inside next. Now I've taken out the screws that fit into this guy. And we'll just open this puppy up. Take a look at the inside here. This keyboard, like I said, is fully interchangeable with the Atari 1040 STs. So if you break your Falcon keyboard, you could put an Atari ST keyboard, STF keyboard that is. Or if you really want to go do something special, you could put this into a 520 or 1040 STF if you really wanted to. There are so few of these, I wouldn't recommend that. All right, you have the shielding. One of the interesting things that's different about this guy, you actually have a speaker, something new. And actually, you'll see a lot more differences as we go inside this case. The shielding has changed, but these Atari STs have a lot of this shielding on them still. Now we're going to take off the first shielding here. This is the floppy shielding. Perfect. There we go. This guy comes off. The main body shielding here. Oh, one more screw. Forgot one. There are a lot of these little screws here. And be careful to remove the speaker wire from it. All right, we have this inside. This is the first layer underneath this guy. This is actually in here when I got this. This is a computer reseller in the Bay Area of California. It looks like they may have worked on this computer in the past, which is kind of cool. Underneath this is the RAM board. This is a Wiztronics RAM board from 1993. Allowed for an upgrade of the RAM to 14 megabytes in this case. We have a Centurion Tech power supply, new power supply, modern power supply. Super awesome. Really excited that I have that. It's really, really helpful to have this. And I am paranoid out the wazoo to that something would happen to this guy. So I'm obviously very, very careful and cautious. So next steps, what we'll do is I'll disassemble the rest of this guy, take out other parts, so we can take up this top shielding, pull it out of the case, and take a look at all the chips and whatnot on the inside of the motherboard. We will fast forward and just clip over to that next point. This will be instantaneous for you all. Now with all the screws removed, the next step is for me to remove the floppy drive. There's a lot of screws keeping this thing together. You don't want to see me doing lots of unscrewing. All right, now it's disconnected from the case itself, so we can pull this out. Oops, let's pull the board out like so. You can see that there. You kind of have to do this in order to get the shielding off properly, because it's kind of locked in place by the power supply in particular. So next thing we do is we just pull the power supply out. As you can see, the hard drive wants to pop out too. Now that's disconnected, but we'll remove this guy first. Power supply off to the side. We have the hard drive here as well, the bracket. We're just gonna fold this guy back. Actually, we can remove the ID cable from there. Cannot do that with a floppy drive. And then we'll pull the shielding off, this top layer shielding. To be fair, this is not how I typically use my Falcon 030. I wanted to put it back into 100% stock mode for this video so you guys could see it, how it looked when I got it, and how it came about. All right, so this is complete stock mode. Oh, still have to remove, of course, there's a couple more screws over on this side. Some more parts get taken off, there we go. And now we can pop this off. Now you can see, with all the shielding off, what this motherboard looks like. All right, let's pop off the RAM expansion. Or actually, this is the RAM in general. What it has is it has a 16 megabyte SIM in there. It only uses 14 megabytes. I'm not sure exactly why that is the case, why it can't use all 16. But this is from 1993. This is original to this computer. Or at least original to when I got it. So brand new. Very awesome. Now down here, what we have is we have the ROM. This is the TOS 1 or 4.04 ROM here from 1992 in this case. Here are the headers for the RAM expansion. Over here, this is something that's, I mean, relatively new to the home or the desk, the wedge-shaped computers, right? You didn't have anything like this in either this STF or the STE here. This allows you to relatively easily slot in some sort of an upgrade into this computer. Not necessarily RAM upgrade, but CPU upgrades or even PC upgrades, so PC cards. There were a number of upgrades that, looking through old Start magazines, where you could actually put a 386 a card with a 386 SX or DX onto this. Up to it, even 486 was advertised. Now, whether or not anyone ever bought them or they were ever sold is another thing, but that was potentially possible. Down here, you have your 68030 CPU processor here. Here, you have the FPU socket that you can pop an FPU in. I don't have one in there at the moment. Moving over here, we have, right here is the DSP chip. Let's zoom in a little bit on this guy. This is one of the powerhouses of this computer, really. This chip specifically is one of the ones that actually enables Doom to play on this computer. In addition to that, it also allows for you to decode MP3s. This is leveraged pretty heavily by a lot of the software that's been developed for the Falcon 030 over time. All right. Now, we have over here, this is the Combel chip, this guy. And this consists of the glue as well as the blitter chips. The blitter is for backwards compatibility. Actually, when you start looking at more of the advanced software, it's not used nearly as much. Right here, the heat-sinked guy right here, this is the Videl chip. This is the video chip that's used for the Falcon. This chip is actually really, really cool because it can actually be overclocked relatively easily. Actually, you plug in a specific port or a specific plug into the socket back here, and you can actually provide a signal in with a faster clock speed that will then overclock this, allowing for higher resolutions, greater color depth, etc. And so you can actually unlock some pretty cool things. There's software called Blow Up that allows you to do that. But it does need to be combined with something that actually overclocks the chip, something physical that provides that faster signal to this Videl chip. Over here you have the DMA chip that provides the direct memory access. Let's see what else we got over here. There's power port, IE port, RF modulator right there. There's a few other things that have been done to this board specifically that I've put together. So this is a clock mod that has been done to just provide some more stability to this computer, specifically with regards to sound output. Oftentimes, again, these computers, you'll actually see this in the motherboard as well as even with the power supply. You see all that kind of bodging that's been done with these capacitors on this end, these little ceramic caps. These are basically prototype boards. They were done in such small volumes that they were putting in fixes all the time, all across throughout the board. And so you have that, you can actually see it on the power supply. The original power supply had these little capacitors on the inputs. Kind of funny. But this clock mod, this helps to actually eliminate some popping, some noise that may come out from the audio output specifically, as well as I think there's also some issues that can happen from data transfer that can be corrupted if the clocks get off a little bit. Lastly here, this is just a simple replacement mod. It had originally had a small, like a little short height Dallas chip there that stored the settings for basically the BIOS settings for the Atari Falcon. This is just a modern replacement with an easily replaceable battery here, so that we can keep those settings in place and not have to worry, and also keep the clock, keep time going on this computer. Another simple mod, the original fan in here was breaking down, the bearings were breaking down. It was really, really noisy. I simply replaced it with an Noctua fan. It provides a lot more airflow and is a heck of a lot quieter, which is very nice here. All right, that's pretty much this computer here. That's the internals of the Atari Falcon. This is, as you see, there aren't a lot of surface mount caps. Luckily, you don't have to worry necessarily. You've got the electrolytics in various different locations, the radial electrolytics, but lucky for the Atari Falcon owners, they don't suffer necessarily from the same disease as what you'll see with the Amigas of a similar era, because they don't have those surface mount caps. Again, what's really nice is that there is actually a decent sized community, a relatively robust community that works on these computers and tries to keep them running as much as they possibly can. So things like this clockpatch rather, and the various different BIOS chip as well that's being developed for these boards and maintained. It's really helpful to have that. Now, in addition to that, in the late 1990s, actually early 2000s, not late 1990s, early 2000s, a enterprising individual decided they wanted to keep their Falcon more, or modernize their Falcon to some extent, and they developed what's called the CT60, at least initially. The CT60 was intended to put a 68060 into the Atari Falcon. This evolved eventually into CT63 over time, and this is the latest incarnation of this, the CT63. As you can see, CenturionTech.eu, these guys, this These guys are actually doing some great work, again, keeping these things alive as much as they possibly can. These are not, these are hobbyists, to some extent retail, but mostly really hobbyists that are putting these things together. So if you saw my my video that I put together looking at benchmarking all of my Atari ST era computers, 16 to 32-bit computers, you'll see that I actually ran this in there as well. So this is, again, my CT63. I have a 68060 here that's running at 80 megahertz. We have 256 megabytes of RAM. This RAM that's supposed to be fast RAM does not function. There's something up with this board. I've tried a million different things. I can't get that to get recognized, ranging from, I think I have about a half dozen different PSUs, including some really beefy ones from my big computers that are high-end power supplies that still, even plugging it, it doesn't work. So that said, great accelerator board. Mine is not the best. Centurion Tech does a great job keeping these up to date. Really grateful for all the help that he's done in making these happen. Eventually I may want to pick up another one, see if I can't get one that actually works. What I run as a daily driver in this guy is the DFB1. This is actually a more recent board that was put together last year, 2022 timeframe, by Bad Wolf. And so you can actually see, I'll put a link in the description below as to his channel that he goes through. And that guy is so prolific. He's put together accelerators for the regular ST line as well as the Falcon line. I think the guy just gets a kick out of putting some cool stuff together. And this is super awesome. I really like this. The reason why I picked this one over the CT63, number one, the fast RAM works on this, and number two, this is more compatible just in general with other software on the computer, running at the higher speed. This right here, it's a 68030 running at 50 megahertz. We have an FPU here also running at 50 megahertz. I got the Silicon Lottery. There aren't many that seem to do that, but I'm able to get this to work, and it works really stably. It's awesome. Fantastic guy. Like I said, this is my daily driver that I like to run. Both of these accelerators, they have a mode where you can actually just simply flip a switch or make a connection with them that allows it to run in the base Falcon configuration, where it reverts back to using this CPU or using what's actually on the main board and disconnects this from that. All right, let's button this guy back up. You don't have to sit around with me, and I will actually put the DFB1 in here, and then we'll take a look at some of the software. I'd like to run Doom, accelerated, not accelerated, have you take a look at how Doom works on an unaccelerated Falcon, which it works decently well, and then also play some MP3s and show you some multitasking with this guy using Mint, which is the software. Mint is not TOS. That was, it was kind of released with the Falcon, kind of not. You could call it multi-TOS. Multi-TOS was replaced with Mint is not TOS. And so you actually have that now. It's maintained decently well today, and so I have a relatively recent revision that will run in here and kind of see what the desktop looks like, how it functions. And we'll proceed to that point. Now this is how I run the Falcon typically. The DFB board is installed here. We have an updated version, not the original RAM card, because I replaced this with a lower power version. Just in hopes of rectifying the issue I had with the CT63. It didn't help, but I run with this one anyway, so I have two, have a backup just in case. What you see here with this line here, this is the enable disable switch. No mods are performed on the case. There's a switch off on the side, a simple switch. Up is accelerated, down is stock Falcon. I also have a light fan that blows over both the CPU as well as the FPU over here. And obviously you can see the SD card as well, replacing the hard drive, the ID hard drive. That's this. That's how I run this guy, and we'll put it back together. Like I said, we'll get to the software. Here is the Falcon setup. We have over here, we have a net USB. We have the MIDI out connected to a synthesizer, which is underneath the desk, a printer, an Epson printer that's under dot matrix printer that's underneath the desk. We have the VGA out with the adapter. Actually, I purchased the adapter, I believe, from Best Electronics, to be frank. Yeah, it's original old stock. The SCSI cord actually goes to this CD-ROM over here. We have the JAG pad plugged in. I do have a ST mouster that allows me to connect this nice Logitech wireless mouse here. And then connected to this big screen. Aspect ratio, obviously it's a little bit off. It is what it is. I actually have it going through the OSSC attached to the wall here. That gets me onto the screen. I like having a big screen, probably because I'm getting old. My eyes aren't as good as they used to be. And also it's convenient, so I actually can use this in the same setup as my main desktop, as well as my Mega STE, if I would like to. So we will now switch over to video capture mode of this desktop, as well as some software.
So as you can see, this is an awesome computer. It was capable of quite a bit, and is capable still of quite a bit, especially in comparison to its contemporaries at the time. That said, why did it fail? Why did it not become a market hit? Well, Atari wasn't the brand name anymore, and the market had already moved on. It moved on a few years prior, especially in the US. As I mentioned earlier, I didn't even know this computer existed. If I'd known what it's capable of, would I have picked one up? Maybe. But again, market had moved on. Atari had also moved on as well, right? They had designed this computer, launched this computer, built it for a year, and then discontinued it in order to put focus on their Jaguar, right? The next generation console. The writing was on the wall for this guy. There were too few developers, right? A big thing that drives hardware sales is software. So it's kind of a chicken and egg kind of a thing at the end of the day, because you need to have hardware in order to get the software developers on, and then you have to have good software in order to drive hardware sales. At the end of the day, it wasn't there. Could Atari have kept it alive? Maybe if they hadn't been distracted. Maybe if they had done something like this or something a little earlier. At the end of the day, this is too little too late, even if it was an awesome computer and very capable. This computer, as well as the Atari STs, continued on for a period of time with their niche in the music industry in particular. Much like the Amigas found their niche in the video production area space. They continued a little further on. Both of them, the writing was on the wall. They weren't going to last too much longer. There's only so much that could be developed for, so many different systems that could be developed for. And the winners had already been chosen. And to be fair, it was DOS, Windows, Wintel effectively is what it became. Even Mac almost died, right? So this was not an easy place to compete. Now, there are many market pressures that were stacked against this computer, and it's now just a footnote in history. It's super small volumes. Depending upon where you read, where you look for information, there could have been as many as 20,000 produced, maybe 30,000, maybe 15,000. I don't know exactly how many were produced, but there weren't very many. It's very, very small amounts. And if you take a look at what's available in the market today, globally on eBay, eBay being not the perfect place, but globally on eBay, you find 2, 3 for sale at any given point in time. And right now they're listed at a price that is just kind of staggering. Even more than most Macintosh laptops or even some of the desktops even, right? So this guy is a high value product. It's very sought after. There aren't many in the marketplace. Don't get me wrong, I'm 100% a fan of the Ataris. I'm an Atarian myself. The 1980s and 1990s, they're littered with the deaths of various different failed computer platforms. Right, and that's the same way with any industry. When you start a brand new industry, it's the same with aviation, it's the same in other places. There were many different aircraft manufacturers for a period of time, but at a certain point, the market can only sustain so many. And right now, if you look at the aviation industry for large aircraft, there's 2. Same thing goes for the computer industry. Really, you've got Mac and you've got the PC side. Yes, you could say Linux, you could say the Raspberry Pis. To some extent, there's other stuff out there, but in general, the market just isn't going to support it. But when that first industry starts, you see this really cool, interesting, lively time. The 1980s and the 1990s, super amazing, super cool time. And fortunately, there were winners, and unfortunately, there were losers. And this platform was one of those losers. It's very much the Wild West, or economic Darwinism at play in this case. But thank you for watching, and I really appreciate you coming in and taking a look at the Hail Mary of the Atari company for their last swan song in the computing industry, the Atari Falcon 030. Have a fantastic day. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you liked it, and if you want to subscribe, please do so. If you didn't like it, say no, downvote it, put it in the comments below, let me know. Appreciate it greatly. Like I said, have a great day. Bye-bye.